When most people picture the Sahara, they imagine a dead place, empty, dry, endless dunes of silence and sand. But what if I told you that this place, this vast, hot, unforgiving sea of dust, was once alive? Not just with people, but with cities, roads, trade, temples, and stories. Stories that have been buried, not just by sand, but by time, and by the world's refusal to see Africa as anything but primitive. But the sand does not forget, and today we are digging it back up. Let's go back, way back. Not 500 years, not 2,000 years. Let's go back 10,000 years. At that time, the Sahara wasn't a desert. It was a lush green savanna. There were lakes, rivers, grazing animals, and even forests. It was called the African humid period, when rainfall patterns shifted and life flourished in what is now barren land. Ancient people didn't just pass through the Sahara, they lived there. They farmed, they raised cattle, they created art, carved deep into rock, showing giraffes, elephants, boats, and even people swimming. That's right, swimming. In the Sahara, we have thousands of these images in places like Tassili Niger in Algeria and Gilf Kabir in Egypt. So what happened? Around 4000 BCE, climate change struck. The rain stopped, the greenery died, and the Sahara dried up. But not before entire civilizations had risen, and many of them were swallowed by the sand, literally. Let's start in modern-day Libya. In the ancient Fezzan region lies the ruins of Garma, or Jerma, the capital of the Garamantes, one of the most sophisticated desert civilizations you've probably never heard of. The Garamantes weren't just desert nomads. They were urban planners. They built multi-story buildings, yes, in the desert, plastered with stone, mud, and imported materials. They constructed a complex irrigation system called the Foggara, with underground channels that brought water from aquifers to their farms, centuries before the Romans arrived. They traded with Carthage and Egypt. They had writing systems. They had warriors and chariots, and they thrived for nearly 1,000 years. When archaeologists unearthed Garma in the 20th century, they found over 50,000 tombs spread across the region. So why don't we hear about them? Because history wasn't written to glorify African brilliance. Now shift west to Niger, a country often seen today as poor, dry, and unstable. But beneath its surface lie the ruins of ancient cities like Zinder, once part of trans-Saharan trade networks that stretched from Timbuktu to Tripoli. These were not isolated communities. They were global players, trading salt, gold, cloth, and knowledge across the desert like highways. We have evidence of well-paved roads, marketplaces, and advanced metallurgy from these regions, some even dating back to 1000 BCE. The Nigerian desert is also dotted with stone circles, mysterious burial grounds, and artifacts that suggest contact with the Middle East and Asia. Again, erased from the global story of progress. No conversation about the lost cities of the Sahara is complete without mentioning Nubia, the Kushite kingdom that ruled parts of modern-day Sudan and southern Egypt. Nubia was a rival to Egypt, and sometimes its conqueror. Its kings built more pyramids than Egypt, still standing in Meroe, partially buried in sand. The city of Napata was once the religious capital, with temples to Amun, Isis, and other gods. The Kushite pharaohs, known as Egypt's 25th dynasty, didn't just adopt Egyptian culture, they enriched it. So why are we taught that Egypt was Middle Eastern or white? Why are the pyramids of Sudan never on magazine covers? Because telling the truth would mean rewriting everything. So what happened to these cities? It wasn't just the desert, it wasn't just time, it was colonialism. When European archaeologists came to Africa in the 1800s and early 1900s, they had a mission: to find proof that non-Africans built Africa. So when they found cities that challenged the idea of African primitiveness, they dismissed them as influenced by outsiders. They misattributed African architecture to Phoenicians, Romans, Arabs, or Atlantis. Anyone but Africans. In some cases, they even reburied ruins they couldn't explain. They blocked funding. They altered museum labels. They denied access to African researchers. This is not just neglect, it's historical violence. Even today, in places like Chad, Mali, and Algeria, There are ancient stone structures, lost languages, engraved scripts, and underground cities that have not been fully excavated because either funding is denied or political instability halts the work. There are nomadic tribes like the Tuareg who carry oral histories of empires and cities that no longer appear on any map. They speak of cities with glass towers, of salt kingdoms, of kings who ruled under the moon and built palaces that were swallowed whole by a storm of sand. Are they myths or are they memories? The sand keeps secrets. This isn't just about ruins, it's about identity. When Africa's past is erased, its people are left with shame instead of pride. When ancient cities are buried, the next generation grows up thinking Africa was always poor, always behind, always developing. But Africa developed long before Europe industrialized. Africa was built before it was colonized. Africa ruled before it was ruled. And those buried cities still whisper to us, if we listen. So now, when you look at the Sahara, don't just see sand. See cities, see roads, see children playing, see women trading gold, see elders debating law, see priests writing in forgotten scripts. See Africa, alive, brilliant, and buried, but not lost. This is Echoes of Africa, and this is the truth beneath the sand.